Well, fellas, we've almost made it. Raleigh Major just around the corner. Are you excited? I am. I've been doing a lot of pondering about these teams as we head in, our 16 teams in the field. And I've tried to narrow down my thoughts to one big question that remains for each of these rosters that will help define their success or lack thereof at this second major of the RLCS season. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We're watching Team Falcons and NRG from Birmingham. I'm going to spotlight some of my favorite games and favorite series from that first major of the season while we talk through what we're going to see in the second. All right, let's start out with our front runner, our European giants in Karmine Corp. And my big question with them is probably my most philosophical of the group. How heavy is the weight of greatness? Look, Karmine Corp 31-2 on the season, 77% win rate for games. That's unbelievable. That's crazy stuff, especially in Europe. And Karmine Corp are looking to become just the second ever organization to win back-to-back with the same roster. Of course, we've seen it done. Players like Turbo and KDOP, they've done back-to-backs before, but Vitality and that crazy run they had were the first org to ever do it instead of like a Gale Force and Dignitas kind of situation. You guys know what I'm getting at. Regardless, there have been few situations in RLCS's history where we've seen teams or even players go back-to-back, and this Karmine Corp team looked like they could do it. You know, I've been trying to talk myself into like, actually NRG are the favorites, and you know, I still think it's Karmine Corp. This team have been so good. Great save there by Roas. But I just it's despite how great they've been, it is so difficult to do it time and time again, and it only takes one. You know, it only takes one series where they run up against a team that's really on a roll. We've seen KC drop some series here. They lost to Dignitas. I think they lost a best of 5 to Ninjas in Pajamas, I think, to start things out. I know they had lost one in qualifiers, but did they also lose one? I can't recall. But in any case, this team have looked so awesome, and perhaps their biggest opponent is themselves. We saw this against Dignitas, where they're trying to get the 6 straight grand finals wins, and they end up dropping one there. So will the pressure that they feel as they get closer and closer to this rarefied air of going 2 straight, will that be too much for them? All right, probably too much time spent to make that point. Let's go on to Dignitas. Will their checkered past do mental damage to them? Jack and Jorius, this obviously is their second iteration being together on Dignitas. When they were first together with Scrubkilla, they ended their tenure together with a 13th through 16th finish at a world championship. Jorius, over the course of his career, never higher than a 5th through 8th at an RLCS LAN. Of course, in like Season X, he goes top 3, but that was an online event during the pandemic. M80, of course, the top 8 curse. Was that Jorius? Was that the team? I don't know. We've seen Nash struggle as well. AJ is now retired. Jack and Gen.G, they bomb out last season to end their season against the Pioneers of all teams. Not a great stretch between those two together and individually, but you know, Jack has won a LAN, guys, and I think this is the best Dignitas has looked all season. 14-4 on the split with a grand finals win. Stizzy, has he finally arrived? This team know what they look like. Love watching them on the crowd cams. Can they get it done here, or will they kind of get into their own heads as we get deep into the tournament? If they get deep into the tournament, they were a round 5 out, in Birmingham against GK. Vitality, 10-4 on the split. Their only losses are to Dig and KC. My question for them is, who is their vocal leader in tough spots. Dig and Karmine Corp, the only two teams to beat them, like we said. Also, the only two teams to hold them below 2 goals per game. This Vitality team love to shoot in bunches, and they love to just try and run you out of the gym, turn it into a track meet. We can shoot and score more than you guys can. And when they struggle, it's because their water can get turned off offensively. I even think about one of their series against Karmine Corp where they were held scoreless, I think in 3 straight, which is pretty remarkable for them. I think Vitality tense up. I think that's fair to say as we head into overtime here. Who's going to step up, communicate, and help them make changes when they need to? Not that they necessarily need to have somebody who's like, funny and loose, but I don't know. I just feel like I've seen on on face cams a couple of times where they get into these rough spots and it seems like they're just all in their own world, not really communicating at a high level, stressed and frustrated as opposed to trying to find solutions. And I really do think that mental aspect of it is not only very important in Rocket League overall and for the RLCS, but specifically for this Vitality team. They have the highest shot differential in Europe this split with plus 133 shots on their opponents, which is crazy. Rounding out Europe, Gentlemates 9-6 on the split, 55% game win rate. Pretty low, but guess what? That's actually the exact same win rate that they had when they won last season with Juicy Seiko and Itachi. So maybe it's a good sign that they're not winning that much. Jokes aside, 3-5 in the playoffs in Split 2. Their only wins, though, are against NIP and Team BSK. And I feel like Eugen has shown some growing pains, and that leads me into my big question for Gentlemates. Is Eugen too green for a deep run? They're 0-2 in Game 7s, and I feel like we have really seen some rough spots from Eugen in big moments as this game is going to wrap up here, and I'll finish up my thoughts as Rawas is going to crush it. 2 goals, 3 saves in this overtime, Game 6. I feel like we've seen Eugen look rough in a couple spots, especially in playoffs. Whether it just be uncharacteristic whiffs, not great reads on the ball, undisciplined shots, kind of just turning the ball over or falling off of the ball. I think he's got to clean that up. He's a rank grinder to end season 18 online. We're, of course, in season 19 for ranked now. But to end season 18 with a couple days left, Eugen, Juicy, and Seiko were 2, 3, and 4 on the Rank 2's leaderboard. So they're grinding. They're ready. But will that translate over into this major? Let's hop over to our next game, and we'll talk about North America. Semifinals. Ultimates. First killer point of view. Gonna get an easy one to start things off against NRG. Guess I just love watching NRG lose. Sorry, fellas. Let's start out with NRG, speaking of which. Can Beast Mode look like the best player in the world is my one big question. 13-2 series series record. There we go. On the split. And a 75% game win rate is pretty crazy. Beast Mode, speaking of which, up to 0.95 goals per game on 27% shooting. Excuse me? That is pretty unbelievable stuff. High volume, very high efficiency. That makes him, I think, second. I know it makes him second in goals per game in North America on the split, and 4th in shot percentage, which is just crazy stuff from a player who I felt like needed to step up leaving and during Birmingham. They upped their goals for this split over last, and they dropped their goals allowed. So they're looking better on both ends, and furthermore, they are one of 6 teams heading into this event who are shooting over 10 shots per game throughout the entire RLCS. If you want more data on that, go check out my Twitter. I made a graphic. Yay. Look, I felt like Beast Mode needed to step up. Um, there was the whole discussion about them post Birmingham. Are they a defensive team? Look, I didn't think they were a defensive team. They were an elite defensive team who were not looking as good as they could offensively. And they've changed that. They look incredible. Um, I think they have a great situation set up for themselves here too. They're going to start off against Gen.G in round one, a team that they have done very, very well against domestically. And just one more little bit here on Beast Mode. I still feel as though they could have a great run here. They could win this major. And if they do, I think that he could be at that same transcendent level that we saw them win at. I mean, look at that like funky catch, and then he's gonna just try and will one in. Oh, excuse me, this is first killer. I'm so used to he's using the beast mode decal. Sorry guys, he tricked me for a second. Great catch by first killer. Um, I just really think that there is still a level for beast mode to get to where he can really overwhelm some teams, especially with his offensive creativity. Speaking of offensive creativity, let me go to the second page in my notes. And we'll talk about the team and player that we're watching right now. In Ultimates, are they going through an offensive evolution or an identity crisis? How's that for a question, guys? First Killer is continuing to do First Killer things. He does this with all of his rosters where he ramps up slowly over the season, especially in his offensive usage statistics. He's the number one scorer in North America. He's almost at a goal per game, which is just unbelievable. Shots are up 0.5 per game, split to split. He's up. This team rather is up to nearly every core stat. All things looking good. But they have a 9-5 record, 9-6. But I removed the disqualification against Lil Step Bros. Sorry, Kep. 3 losses to SSG, and it hasn't been close. 2-11 game differential. There's just something in the waters for SSG when they go up against this team where they've figured something out. As a Beastman is going to walk one in there on a wonky defensive set there from Ultimates. My big concern here is that I just don't feel like they've looked like themselves in some of these playoff series. I think about the Gen.G series where they end up losing in 6. Cheese was excellent. But that one concerned me. Some of these SSG series where it's just like, what are you guys doing out here, especially when they get swept in the grand finals? I don't know. Maybe am I just a hater, guys? I felt the same way heading into Birmingham where I did not rate Ultimates high. Then they go make a grand finals appearance, and I say, I won't doubt this team again. They really showed me. And then here I am being like, God, what is up with Ultimates? I just, especially LJ, haven't been impressed by him over the course of this split. The numbers are all there, but when the eye test, there's just some stuff where it's like, I feel like sometimes he can get a little touch heavy and doesn't really take the ball into a spot where they can do much with it. It's just kind of moving it side to side in a way that's not very impressive. And I feel like he has to be your second or first best option scoring if this team want to get it done. He definitely stepped up in Birmingham. He has a history of stepping it up on lands, so maybe I'm convincing myself that this team is a little better than I thought. But the identity crisis piece of it, I just felt like this team really got excellent at becoming like this great counter team, and I didn't feel like they've been able to do that at a high level. I thought they would improve stylistically with their result at Birmingham, and I feel like they've kind of plateaued a little bit. So that's where I feel about Ultimates. Speaking of the team that has absolutely run them over, Space Station Gaming. 12-3 on the split, 70% game win rate, pretty darn good, only 5% behind NRG. My big question for them, will their Smash Mouth style translate to the LAN environment. So the top four demo per game teams heading into Birmingham were Gen.G, wow, what a save, Team Secret, Vitality, and NRG. And shockingly, all four of those teams actually increased their demos per game at LAN, which is a great sign if you're Space Station Gaming, whose 7.24 demos per game leads the field in a pretty significant way. Um, can you go up from that? Will you go up from that? Do you even want to go up from that? Or is it something that gets a little hard to maintain? I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that their 478 demos this split is first place, and second place was 264. So they have a huge demo lead over the field. And I made a full video about this team, sharing some of my thoughts and concerns about them. You should go watch that if you want to learn more about my thoughts for SSG. But for now, I'll just say, as time has gone on and we've crept closer to the major, I'm feeling better and better about their chances just looking over some stats and watching film. Gen.G, 10 and 5, 60% win rate. In short, this split with Justin instead of Reddles, stingier defense and more shots on offense, and there's first killer getting the game win. Let's watch that back real quick. Big demo. Chronic with a great pop. Is he going to get a bump ahead of the play? Later beast mode. And Daniel just a second off there. Let me finish up with Gen.G real quick. Then we'll move on. His first killer is going to light up the scoreboard there. Gen.G and SSG, the only NA teams where all three players shoot above 3 shots per game. So spreading the love, getting your shots up. And despite that, still NRG is taking more shots per game than both of them. A big part of that is beast mode, of course. I feel like Cheese has been a revelation. Justin has just been excellent as a scoring option. Gives you a more diverse bag than what Reddles can offer you. It just is what it is. Justin is going to finish the season 5th in North America in goals per game, and Cheese is 4th. Magic Bear, of course, a great facilitator for them. My big question, which I didn't even ask because I was so excited about what I have written down on my first notepad, is can Justin stay steady in his big return? It's been a while since he's been on the LAN stage. There's going to be a lot of emotions, probably some nerves. Can he be a steadying force for this team looking to improve on their LAN results? All right. Let's hop over to our next game and talk about some of our additional regions like EMENA and South America. Game 7 against Vitality. We are on Lost. Point of view. Speaking of Lost, my big question for FURIA, do they have the stamina for 3 or 4 best of 7s? I feel like historically, I've complained about this, or at least noticed this in several events from FURIA, where they have this very, very similar outcome every time, where they really ramp up. They look awesome in 2s. They play a ton of ranked 2s games leading into every major. After they have a dominant online split domestically, they run through, have a very dominant Swiss, and then they kind of get a little slowed down once they get into the playoffs. The big player for me to look at is always Yan, where we love what he can do on the ball. He is so gifted. And with that being said, you just get into some of these best of 7s where I just feel like he can get a little quiet. He can get a little passive, and he can get a little boom ball, or just like going for like these funky things without really like thinking through the play, where it just ends up being like a very fancy turnover. And look, there was very few, if any, players that impressed me more than Lost in Birmingham. I thought he was unbelievable, transcendent, one might say. And Drafinio is always just like a good, steady player who I'm not as blown away by as it seems like some of the community are. That doesn't mean that I think he's a bad player, but just the praise that he gets is like he could be the best player on FURIA. I've heard said by a couple people before. I'm not going to be able to meet you there. 14-1 on the split, 76 per game, 76% game win rate. You get it together, belleair. Both great numbers, but we get it. They play in South America. Speaking of South America, Team Secret, 13-5, 63% game win rate, a little lower. My big question for them, do Secret believe they belong here? It's kind of become a staple of KV1 and Mata teams individually, but now also together, where they just get like rolled in a lot of the series that they play. And it's like, do you guys not I've talked about before this concept of like losing a game or a series before you even get into it, and I feel like Team Secret do that more than anybody, where it almost feels predetermined what their fate is going to be before some of these series even kick off. Like if they know they're the underdogs, they're going to shell up and just not look like they're rolling with the same flow and force that they do online. They're a great team in South America. Statistically, they're awesome. They have a very good young gifted player in Swift. And despite all of that, they just like really don't get up any shots. They look really rough. They look shaken when they get onto these land stages. And Lost almost had a great save there, but couldn't pull it off against a Zen transition. They got to believe in themselves for anybody else to believe. You can't go into a series against Falcons and be like, well, it's Falcons. We're about to get crushed. Like, you know, show up is basically the question that I have for them. Will they show up? Show up is a statement. All right, let's move on. Falcons. Falcons are 31-2 on the regular season, 76% game win rate. Why do I bring up the season instead of the split? That's because it's the same as Karmine Corp. I don't know what's more impressive. The answer is Karmine Corp. On the split, they are 15-0. Congratulations on the perfect split, Falcons. My question for them: have the Twins matured into consistency? They just celebrated a birthday like a week and a half ago. Happy birthday, Ruas and Clears. But let me take you through a little bit of their history here. 2024 Major 1, Denmark? Is that right? Shut out in game 1 and 2 by Karmine Corp in the playoffs, and then they go on to score 3.2 goals per game in their best of 7 loss. Major 2, they marched to the finals, unstoppable offensively. Didn't they just look bad against G2? Like, G2 were good, but like Falcons, just like the offense got totally shut down seemingly by themselves. Birmingham, they killed GK. Killed them. But their offense looked really bad, and their defense against Team Ultimates. And then they did not look very good. They looked off against Gen.G, I felt like. Can they just, like, if they're going to look great, can they just, like, do that consistently is my question. I feel like we've seen a real Jekyll and Hyde situation from Falcons, where there have been some series where I'm like, this is quite possibly the most fluid offense I've ever seen from a team at a LAN in the RLCS. And then they just will, like, decide to not do that and just like look bad. I really don't know how to explain it, but consistency, is the hardest thing to come by in the RLCS. Falcons have learned that more than any. They looked great in Saudi E-League. They're 8-5 against Twisted Minds to kind of give us a finger on the pulse here of how they're coming in. I have them ranked third coming in here, just for what it's worth. Great dunk by Lost to end things out. Let's talk about Twisted Minds just real quick before we move on to our final 4 teams and final match of the video. Twisted Minds, 12-4, 66% game win rate. My big question, are we undervaluing Rise and Atomic? Just check out Direct on Twitter. Go look at his hub sheet and just look at the all-time LAN stuff. Rise is top 3 in basically everything. He's the only player in RLCS history to have more than 400 tally on lands, and he has the most games played. So land boy, and then Atomic. I always looked at him as one of the best strikers in Europe. Um, they have the talent. I'm really worried about their defense, to be honest with you. Get real flat-footed in the goal, especially in that Saudi E-League final that I just rewatched against Falcons. They really struggle there, but they're great offensively. Naupo on both ends. All right, let's move on to our final four teams. All right, Catalysm and Luminosity turned Virtus Pro, taking on Wildcard in round four. Uh-oh. Wildcard should win this one, right? They're a round five team. They're looking to make their first top eight. Wrong. Not a spoiler. It was last major. Catch up, guys. All right. Wildcard, speaking of which, 13-1 on the split, 68% win rate. Pretty darn good. My big question, Banana Head is Batman. Who's his Robin? You know, I had done a like a soccer style draft, football, sorry, style draft with Martian Turtle, Myth, Captain Dolphin. Martian's putting it on. He's hosting it, putting it all together. It was a great time. Go check out Martian Turtle's Twitter if you want to learn more about what we're doing with that. And I had jokingly said that I might draft Banana Head in the first round. Adam Baguette, coach extraordinaire, had tweeted me and said, if you pick anybody besides Fever, you're making a mistake in the first round for OCE. And I said, really? Because, you know, I look back on this team from Birmingham, and I felt like Torsos was the one who almost won that series against Karmine Corp in round one. Fever's just always kind of quiet to me, and I know that that's wrong because if you look at the stats, like he's an assist machine. But I guess a better way to put it instead of quiet is I don't remember a lot of Fever plays from Birmingham. You know what I mean? Where I have like firm memories from like certain shots from Banana Head, and of course I just talked about the Carmine Corp series. Is Catalysm getting it ahead? Sphinx on the breakout. Uh-oh. 3-0 quick in a potential closeout here. What's going on? God, I didn't even realize it was 3-0. That happened so fast. Um, Look, this team have the ability to make top eight. We've seen that time and time again. Are they actually going to do it? I think that question lies in their own mental. They do this every time where they can make it deep into a tournament and then they just totally melt apart once they get to a tough situation. Of course, here against Virtus Pro, look, Virtus were playing great. Luminosity at the time were playing great. But also, this is just like classic this trio where you get up to these big moments and then it just is over. So who's going to step up and be Banana Head's Robin? Also, Banana Head's got to have a better event as well. He's their leader. He's their talisman, as it were. But I did not think he looked very good in Birmingham. TSM. What is your identity? Is my question for them. If you just look statistically, all three of their players, Amphis, Kaka, and Super Lucky, are basically even across the board in like all of their statistical outputs. It reminds me of Shopify Rebellion actually, from last season, where I remember looking. I think it was after like two or four. It was like after the second event. You know what I mean? In one of the splits. And goals per game, two-piece Parth and Justin were all identically tied. I was like, what? It's so weird. A very similar thing for TSM. Look, you obviously are not one of the teams that are favored to do anything here. If you're gonna do it, like you gotta just pick an identity and roll with it. Whether it means you get Braziled or not, just like try something. Are you going to be a team that is trying to push offensively and be physical? Are you looking to just like park the bus defensively and try and counter? Just figure it out and bring that to the table. Virtus Pro, as a wildcard, are trying to mount a comeback against them here. Catalysm, great clear, buddy. Evil Genius's legend, Catalysm. 15-0, perfect split. Congratulations. And 83% win rate. Yep, that's definitely an APAC or an SSA team if you're up there. My big question for them, was Birmingham a fluke or a building block? uh, look, they go round five. They beat both the OCE teams um, in Chiefs, and we're watching them beat Wildcard here. They got rolled by the other teams that they played. Who were those? Vitality, Falcons in round five. Who was in the middle? Ultimates, maybe? Um, are you actually going to do anything here? Not that the expectation is that they will, but, you know, going to round five with the wins that they got, it's like cool, but it's not really like they. If there was like a team secret or like a a Gen.G win in there, it'd be like, hey, look at that. But I'm not super blown away by the wins that they were able to achieve, which is not taking away from them the best event that APAC has had in their history. But if we're expecting that all these teams are looking to improve, that's where my question lies for them. And finally, Foot Esports. Will they be able to muck it up? They are not the team that has the most talent when we look at the board, but I do think that they have the ability to kind of make it a struggle and pressure other teams into not looking their best. They go to Game 5 against Team Secret, for example, before they get bounced. Um, and had a couple like big wins in there where teams just did not look like themselves. 10-0, perfect split for them. Congratulations, 92% game win rate. That's definitely SSA for you. As Catalysm, going to drop 2 assists and 3 saves to close out Wildcard. So, guys, those are my big questions for all of our 16 teams. What's your big question that you have out there for one of the teams? Um, Let me know which team you feel has the biggest question that is unanswerable for you. For me, for example, I think it's Space Station Gaming. To be honest with you, they're a huge question mark for me. And will that style be able to translate, especially with them being all land rookies, is just a huge differentiator for me. So that is it for today's video. If you're going to be in Raleigh, guys, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm at belleair baller, and let me know. I would really like to meet some of you who take time out of your day to give to me, talking about what I'm passionate about, what I assume we're passionate about. So, would love to meet up and say what's up. Um, Guys, as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And until next time, guys, take it easy.